Welcome to our 71st podcast. Today we'll be talking about managing expectations and leveraging rumors in the workplace with our very special guest, Jenni Pozar. What's the one thing you could do now to start a rumor in a good way? Keep listening to find out. Welcome to Harmonious Workplaces, a podcast about corporate culture, organizational change management, and workplace behavior. Harmonious Workplaces was started by independent consultants Rich Cruz, Ben Kleinman, and Cheryl Volpe to explore, challenge, and build on various organizational culture and change management concepts. It's a blend of theory and practice based on their personal and professional experiences working with companies of all sizes across various industries. If you own a business, lead a team, want new ideas about the corporate environment, or just want to listen to a group of consultants talking about how to make work more enjoyable, we invite you to sit back, relax, and dive in with us to Harmonious Workplaces. Hello, Harmonious Workplaces listeners. Welcome back to our podcast. As always, we're so glad to have you with us today. My name is Rich Cruz. I'm an organizational development consultant, and I'm joined by my co-host, Ben Kleinman. Hi, Ben.
Hey, everyone.
And we have a special guest that came to us from another special guest that we've had. And hi, Jenni. We've got Jenni Pozar with us today.
Hello. Hello, guys.
Welcome,
How you
welcome.
doing?
We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you.
And Jenni, you're coming to
glad
us
to
from
be here.
the Austin area. Is that right?
I am Austin, Texas.
on.
Correct.
Right
Yeah.
on. I thought it was hot here. It's probably just sweltering over there, right?
We haven't hit 100 degrees since May, which is a weird thing.
Oh, wow.
And for us, this is downright freezing. It's gonna be 97 today, so I'll wear a sweater. Yeah. Excellent. Very excited.
That's great. Well, Jenni, so you came to us from Elizabeth Constantine, right? And from Abreu Services. And Jenni, could you give us a little bit of your backstory and what you do and where you come from and all that?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks to Elizabeth. This has been such a great hookup. And now I'm addicted to your podcast. Thanks to her. So my background is interesting. I went to school. I grew up in Oregon, went to school, and I was going to be a writer. I was going to be the next Pauline Kael. I was going to write film reviews. So I went to school in journalism at the University of Oregon, and met my husband and decided to truck out to Chicago. And then tried to figure out how to write and couldn't figure it out. Got turned down over and over and over, very hard. So got a job in sort of office management. And then we moved to Ann Arbor, Michigan, where he took a job at Ford, and I got another job in sort of what would be sort of personnel at the time, because I'm old. Yes.
Did you have mimeograph machines
29 years ago? Yes, exactly. Right.
People typesetting in the basement with little blocks on grids.
Oh my God, the stories I tell my kids. I'm like, when I was a kid. So this was 29 years ago. Yeah. So it was a small consulting firm I worked for, and they needed an HR department. And they said, what do you know about HR? I said, absolutely nothing. They're like, great, you go. And so I got to sort of start with a job that building HR soup to nuts. Lost an AirPod. Hang on.
Uh-oh.
Okay,
Got it.
I'm back. So, which was tremendous training ground. And I realized, hey, I kind of like this. This is great. This is the kind of business I like to do. There was an element of communication in it. So my journalism background was peak. Then I was like, this is great. You have to be able to communicate, right? To do this job and to teach other people how to interact in a company.
Yeah.
I got my MBA at Michigan at the same time. So that was helpful. And the minute I got my MBA, sort of hightailed it out there to try to figure out. Long story short, I could spend the entire 2 hours just talking about this, but I went out to California. My husband became the trailing spouse. I took the job at Cisco in the Bay Area in their first sort of HR leadership rotational program. And the woman that I worked for, who was unbelievable and has sort of been my muse for life, Kate DeCamp, she's the CHRO at Cisco, put me in a compensation job, which scared the heck out of me because
Mm.
as a communicator journalist, I was like, this math stuff, this isn't what I signed up for.
Well, it's also a touchy subject too. I mean, compensation is stuff that
Well, and that,
back then
right?
nobody
And
talked
I
about.
wasn't used to correct. And the landscape was weird. So people weren't expensing options at that point. Silicon Valley was in the bubble right before it burst. And so everybody was, the janitor was making tons of money off his options, right?
Right.
And that was all new to me. I was like, how does this equity work? It was trial by fire. It was a totally new discipline.
Mm.
Long story short, got the bug. I was like, I really like this. I'm good at it. I actually was good at math. I was good at analytics. I was like, this is right up my alley. And so never rotated out of that job at Cisco. Ended up following my boss, Austin, for what I thought would be just a couple of years, thinking, oh, we'll save some money. We had, 2 boys at that time, 3 later, and I was like, going to have to pay for college at some point. So I followed him to Dell. And we've been here 20 years. And in that time, I've changed positions a few times, have gone into different areas, back to sort of generalist route,
Sure.
gone back to comp, total rewards, have done some remote work during COVID for Silicon Valley companies and done that again. And most recently, I've been in the financial services industry, leading their entire HR function, which was a tremendous honor and great, and a new industry for me. Sort of banking and real estate for a company called Amherst most recently.
Mm.
And got the chance to sort of lead the whole function. So that was great. Now I'm back to doing my own consulting.
Nice.
Taking a little sort of break to do my own thing. And
Good for
I
you.
just had one kid graduate from college. So
Right
yeah,
on.
Yay.
Right on.
that's sort of where I am. Yeah.
Cool.
Very cool.
Cool.
I love that you had a chance like early on in your career to like do some job crafting, which seems to be kind of a motivational factor for you. Is that fair to say?
It is, and it was luck, right? When you're able to sort of figure out, like, is this right? And can I craft this the way I want to? Then you're like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, this is something I can do.
I think
Yeah.
there's also
Never in a million years thought I'd be doing this,
Sure.
right?
there's also
No.
luck too, but also having the right manager or the right boss. Like you said, you wound up working for this woman who became, I think your word was a muse. That's rare, and that's a really special thing. So being able to get into a position where they said, even in your first gig, where they said, we know you don't know anything about it, but we trust you to figure it out. Now go figure it out. And you were able to thrive there.
And I was a kid, right? That was, I mean, I think about that now. Think about giving somebody the keys
to the
like
car,
that.
and you'd be like, oh, heck no.
I try to pay that forward,
Awesome.
right? Because that's my favorite part about my career is sort of developing the people underneath me, because I've been lucky enough to have had that.
That's really
myself.
cool. That's such a
So,
cool virtuous cycle too.
Yeah. Well, another thing that strikes me is that so you have this writing background, right? And this communication piece, which we talk about a lot, right? Communication. Excuse me. We all have a bit of a creative streak, right? And it's just kind of interesting that dealing with people issues in the workplace, these creative types just like naturally gravitate towards that for some reason or another, right? I have an art degree. Ben, you were an English
English and
major,
theater,
right?
yeah.
English and theater. Cheryl did right English, right? And
Yeah, and she was
writing.
doing all
Yeah.
kinds of entertainment and series, like TV series stuff.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Super cool stuff she's doing. But yeah, your theater background too is it's fantastic.
But it's so interesting. Like,
What's rare, I think, though, is when I went into compensation, right, which was highly analytical, sort of in my back cave doing, Excel, right, for
Did you have a
years.
bat light or
That,
a bat signal?
yeah, I did. Of course I did.
So awesome. I want one of those. Can we get a Hermes signal?
A big dollar sign. Yeah.
right.
Like just a little crab shell that projects up on the ceiling.
Oh my God, that'd be super cool. Like a Hermes like signal would
Yeah.
be super cool for you guys. You guys should
Well,
consider
we will. Well,
that.
duly noted.
Okay. Yeah, there's not a lot of people who both value and have the skills at communication in compensation. And that has been sort of my ace in the hole. Where I fail in other parts of this, right? I make up for in the fact that I can communicate the numbers and what's happening and sort of what maybe should be done.
Sure.
Um, so I'm always like telling people, like, go and like talk to people, take a creative writing class. Like these are the skills that that you're not going to find that's going to distinguish you from
And do you
other
find
folks.
that in compensation, most of the people are a little bit different from maybe other HR roles where HR,
Very different.
yeah, they're maybe a
They're
little
like
bit more
finance people.
analytical,
Mhm.
a little bit more heads down. Like you said, maybe more math driven, math oriented.
Incredibly smart.
Yeah.
Both the muse I was talking about, Kate DeCamp, she was a comp person, so she was one of those people that had those, and I had another mentor, Britt Whitman, who phenomenal storyteller. And when you combine storytelling skills with compensation, which sounds so dry, what you can tell them, how you can move people is pretty.
That's so cool.
It's pretty
Yeah.
amazing
We've
to
talked,
watch.
we've
Yeah.
talked, as you know, since you've seen a few of our podcasts and you admitted that in
Yeah.
private, and now I've just outed you. The idea of storytelling and the power of storytelling is so important for all this stuff that we talk about.
It's huge, right? It hooks people. Yeah.
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 Well, speaking of storytelling, right?
Okay.
Our tease for this episode
Yeah.
is
Spreading rumors.
rumors. Yeah.
Okay.
And not the Fleetwood Mac rumors. We're talking about like in the
Now you're dating.
well, hey,
Nice.
Yeah.
but yeah, let's talk about that because it's
Maybe
it just
after,
falls in line with communication.
maybe we take a break, and when we come back, we talk about how to start a rumor in a good way.
I like it.
All right.
Good.
We'll be right back. At Harmonious Workplaces, we believe work should provide purpose, satisfaction, and growth. We empower people to thrive by fostering environments where individuals can find meaning in their work and organizations can succeed through thoughtful, well-executed strategies. We're committed to making work better for the people who do it and the leaders who guide them. To discover how Harmonious Workplaces can impact your organization, visit www.harmoniousworkplaces.com and book a free 30-minute information session with one of our consultants today. Again, that's www.harmoniousworkplaces.com. And we're back. So we're talking with Jenni about, we got a little of your background, and then we teased out talking about rumors in the workplace. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about that. I mean,
Yeah, where did that come from? That sort of insight or spark come from? And what was the whole story there?
Yeah. There's a lot of story, and it's been refined over the years. So I've always believed that HR is the first thing that we do is we're a change agent, right? So the whole sort of idea of what you all do is critical to sort of everything, and not just HR. We are the sort of the carriers of this, but it is our, going back to sort of Dave Ulrich's, I'll preach my U of M professor, Dave Ulrich's change agent is everything, right? And teaching people to be change champions is huge. And one of the big components, as you know, of change management is managing expectations, right? And when I first started reading about it and diving into the science, and I was like, how do I get these people to change? It's the hardest thing to do. It still is hard. There's nothing easy about it. But when I started trying to figure out the science behind it and what to do, this managing expectation things keep coming back to bite me, because what would happen inevitably is a change would fail or some part of it would fail because somebody would say, I didn't know that was going to happen, or I wasn't listening, or you didn't prepare me for this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sort of honed in on that, and got better and better at managing expectations and being pretty transparent from the get-go with everyone. I've always been a dual transparency type person, which is not always a great thing, but for me, it's just who I am. As I started to realize this full transparency, managing expectation things was important, I also realized it was more, it stuck more if it wasn't HR
Mm.
and it wasn't me
Mm-hmm.
who was doing the managing of the
Oh,
expectation.
yeah. Makes sense.
So where does that lead? That leads to, okay, maybe your leaders, you can get buy-in, right? This is the whole, hey, let's get everybody in a corner and let's get buy-in so they can help promote this. And it's not just HR, it's the CFO who's telling you this is a good idea and whispering in your ear. That works. Yeah. And it's important,
Sure.
as you know. You definitely need that executive sponsorship, and your peers to come along with you. Then I started realizing as I got interns and I started getting bigger and bigger teams and younger people working for me, and in my natural transparency state, telling them everything behind the
Mm-hmm.
scene with their eyes getting bigger, like saucers, like rumors, right? Like, oh my God. And I tell them these stories because I'm just, obviously I talk a lot, and I'd be like, this is what can happen. This is how it can fail. But if it works, this is what happens. So let me give you a sort of a real example
Oh,
of
yeah,
this,
please.
so we
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
talk
great.
theoretically. In almost every position I've been in, one of the huge initiatives or projects that require change management is job architecture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Creating some kind of job architecture and compensation
Sure.
structure, whether it's refining it or building it from scratch. That terrifies people, right? Because there's titles involved and there's money involved. Two things that people are unbelievably sensitive to in the
Yep.
business.
Status
Um,
and money, right? Those are.
Oh my God. And you never can pick who's going to be more sensitive to which thing. And job architecture entails sort of putting together, a structure called competencies
And
title,
responsibilities
switching
and
people
how
around.
much autonomy
Correct.
and power essentially that you have. And then the
Yeah.
financial stuff, it seems like that's still pretty locked down in terms of people don't really talk about how much they make. There's always a little bit of weirdness, like,
Getting
hey,
better.
I make
But
this,
yeah,
you
it's
make
getting
that,
better.
I'm, whatever. And it's a
Yeah,
little uncomfortable for
it's,
people.
it is. But people scream that they want it because they don't understand it's a black box. We don't understand how we're
Right.
paid, right? So it's two sides of the coin, right? We're not going to talk
Sure.
about it, but also we need to know everything. Okay. So as you're building this or refining it or doing whatever, and I've done it in many iterations, many companies, the first big one I did was at Dell, which is, at that point was, 90,000 people, and, it was refining, but it was also moving people from one title to another, one comp band from another, if they were eligible for bonus or equity, right? All the change management that goes along with that. And there were just droves of people working on this. And as I sort of took along some of the people that were junior to me on this trip, they would ask all these questions and I'd tell them all the answers. And I'd say people get pissed when their title changes. They get, they don't understand comp. And so explain to them how equity works, why they're not getting stock, because they're not eligible. They're not in that bucket,
Sure.
right? And a lot of my superiors would say, oh my God, you're telling them too much. The curtain's going up too much. They can't do this. And I'm like, this is me. I think this is important. People did this for me. I want to
Right.
do this. And if you don't like it, then I'm probably not the
Yeah.
right person, right? So what I noticed was those younger people or people who hadn't done this before tended to have looser lips, right? Because they had not experienced sort of when it was like to be like locked down and you can't say anything. And so they'd start talking to their friends in finance and marketing and saying, yeah, we're doing this project and blah, 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 blah,
Sure.
blah. And then they'd come back to me and say, hey, this guy in marketing said, well, he has this weird, partner title that no one has here. What happens to his title? And we get questions that we never would have gotten had these people not been sort of talking at the water cooler, right? For lack of a better term. So the stuff that was coming back, and I started thinking, this is good. This is how we get this out. It has to be grassroots. It has to be people not talking behind your back, but sort of sharing something that's like, hey, we're working on this,
Right.
right? Hence the rumor part, like, and getting that natural feedback. So that was the first plus. I was like, okay, this is great, right? There were downsides too, right? Because then you'd have people freaking out and going all the way up the chain and being like, what are you doing? We heard that this is
Right.
happening.
We
So
heard
there,
that,
it's
right?
not all
That
Right.
whole,
pluses.
we
I-
heard this.
We heard our
Now
department
we,
is getting, whatevered.
right.
Correct.
So you have to manage
Always
that
better
then.
though to get that months before something happens than the day of, let's have this big rollout and everybody's like, what? Right?
Right. Right.
Back to the managing expectations. So the rumors help get the feedback loop going.
Mm-hmm.
Not getting my notebook. I'm like, this is great. I gotta remember that this is a plus if done with the right people in the right way.
Yeah.
I I think it's always political, and so you have to be very careful about how you do this,
Sure.
and depending on sort of the culture, right, of a company. Dell was very transparent at the, I think they still are. It's been years since I've worked there, but and so it just sort of naturally fit. I have been in culture since where I've tried this
Mm-hmm.
tactic, and it hasn't worked because the culture is so political, and when you start telling people their power gets, they feel like you're infringing on their power when you start telling people below
Sure.
them what's happening, and they don't know. They're out of the loop, but their employees know. So it's a very fine line. But I have learned over time to refine it to figure out who to pick to sort of spread these rumors, right?
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
wow.
Versus just kind of throwing it caution to the wind, but be pretty strategic in who, where, right? If you're a global company, how you're starting it globally, which can be really interesting if you start it somewhere in a different country and it gets back to your country and nobody's heard. And they're like, hey, these guys in India are telling me that all our jobs are changing, that kind of
Sure.
stuff hurts. So I've learned more from my failures in this than I have my successes.
But this
But
aligns very much with some of the theories that are out there. I mean, like
yeah,
Cotter's model of
yes,
change, of building a guiding coalition, and then the army of volunteers. So yeah, it's that social aspect to it. And I remember when I was studying organizational development and change leadership at the Drucker School, we had a Harvard simulation where we had to pull different levers, right? I think I've mentioned this on a couple of the podcasts before, but finding in the organization who affects who, like what are those relationships among
yeah,
people, is so important to be able to get the message out there, but also to get some of the data that you need in order to effectively change people's minds.
Which I love it.
figuring out who has the influence,
Yeah.
right? If it's not always the leader.
Right. Yeah. Very often it's not the leaders, because there's this kind of, I don't want to let my manager know, so I'm gonna talk to my coworkers. Right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And Jenny, like you were saying, there's a lot of stuff that happens around the proverbial water cooler, and you have these pockets of expertise that people just know who to go to for certain things, and oftentimes it's
Yeah.
not a manager, since whatever reason, and those people tend to become these sort of centers of gravity, if you will, and that's just so important to recognize. But I love that you've figured out a way to understand who to go to and where, and maybe if you can spill the beans on that, like how can people know how, or maybe how do you figure out what's a good way to start a good rumor, and then how do you pick the right people to start it, and kind of how do you seed the right rumor waters, and like you were saying, if it's global, where do you want to?
It is.
Do we need
It's
to
a
take
delicate
break
dance.
first, or where are we at?
Yes.
Why don't we do that? That's a good tee up for getting into the
Yeah.
how-to, the
So
nuts
when we
and
come
bolts.
A
back,
teaser.
Jenny will tell us all the deets on how to start spreading rumors in a good way.
Right on.
I
We'll
love
be
it.
right back.
Meet Hermie the HR Hermit Crab. Laugh, learn, and lead better with Hermie. Hermie is here to tackle workplace madness with heart and humor from Harmonious Workplaces. He's perfect for HR pros.
And we're back. So, Jenny, tell us how can we leverage rumors in the workplace?
I think this is tricky and it's hard to teach, and it's something I have to relearn every new company because you have to learn new people
Sure.
and how things work and how communication cycles go, and does a rumor even work, right? Or do people hear this and they freak out and quit? Not a great idea, right?
Right.
So like that you have to sort of this isn't one of those one and done things, and I have learned by trial and error, um, who are the best and who are the worst at this. It's usually governed by personality than it is like by function. Like I don't like always go to a finance person. Although I will tell you some of the sort of accounting, sort of in their back cave finance people doing their Excel stuff are some of the best rumor spreaders, because those are the people who go to the water cooler and then take everything that they've learned and heard and spill the beans, right? And they usually do it in a very sort of didactic, sort of like very it's not laced with a lot of fluff and what you think of as gossip, right? When you hear rumors, you think gossip.
Sure.
It's more like, hey, I think HR is doing this. Holy crap, what if our job going to look like? But wait, the compensation piece might work. And that might help me do my job, because in finance, I'm thinking about workforce planning, right? And the cost of an OpEx, which walks on two legs, what I'm thinking about comp. So the finance sometimes are the best people to sort of help with this, because they're the least likely to make it go sideways.
So
I have also learned that sort of finding people who will give you that feedback loop, will come back in and have a meeting with you, or come back in and say, hey, you told me I could tell people this. Well, that's the first thing. I don't tell people this as like hoping they'll spread a rumor. I say, hey, go spread this rumor. I tell them what I'm doing, right?
Right.
They always look at me like I'm insane, because HR never says anything like that. But I say, go tell your friends, right? Tell the world, like, see what you get back, and then come back and tell me what you're hearing, because you're a really good sort of conduit for us understanding what is going on out there. And in some jobs, sure you guys have seen this, HR isn't trusted. HR is the enemy. We're going through a cycle of that right now, where it's just like, we hate HR. We're Toby in the office, right? Like everyone hates. And so we're not oftentimes trusted. And so when you have these sort of people help you that are trusted,
Right.
and then they say, by the way, you should trust HR. They told me this, right? So that they're carrying that torch for you without it being sort of fake and artificial.
Sure.
It's just a really good thing. So I've used people from all. I tend to, when I think about it, I even write down a list. I'm not dorky OCD wise, where I'm like, who are my best people to sort of tap into? And I try to pick a wide variety. So I'm hitting middle management, upper management, different countries, certainly different functions is huge, right? IT is a really good one too, like finance. If people in IT are really good rumor spreaders, they talk to everyone in the company.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah. I just gave a presentation to a higher ed institution recently, and it was on customer service for people within the organization, right? And yeah, there wasn't a person inside the organization and even outside, the alumni and all that are not affected by IT, and they're very good at, well, I mean, they're information people, right? So giving them some of that power is very powerful.
And with this particular project, the job architecture, IT people really love organization, right? And things that are organized that fit into their systems correctly, right? This all make these things talk to each other. They become huge champ. They're like, this is great. This is going to help me. And so they naturally become sort of these sort of torches for
Makes sense.
you out in the field. So, yeah, it can backfire. So I will tell you, like it isn't a perfect, I would have written a book by now probably, but it isn't a perfect system because you have to be very careful. And as I've gotten higher up in my career, I've learned that sometimes people trust you less and less and are lower than you. And they don't understand when you say rumor, right? You guys got it, but they immediately hook it to gossip and they're like, oh, this person's like bad poison pill for the company. They're spreading rumors, right? They don't take time to understand what I'm saying. And so I haven't really found another word for the word rumor that works, right? Because what you want it to be is natural.
Yeah.
You don't want it to be something that you've planted. It has to be that whispering sort of thing. And I don't know what it, yeah, maybe Stevie Nicks could help me out. Like I need another word for rumors. Yeah. So
Jenny, I'm just like, my brain is exploding with questions, but maybe we could talk a little bit about, or you could just share a little bit about how you start a rumor in, make sure it's a good rumor and not, like you say, not that it doesn't sort of very, very quickly morph into gossip. And I think that was the challenge you were trying to talk about. Like it's rumor in a good way. Rumor is a good term. Rumor is a positive thing that you're trying to spread. News, good news, positive news, even if it's not great news, you're trying to spread it positively, as opposed to gossip, which is maybe a little bit of a negative connotation in many use cases. So how do you craft that message, the content, in a way that tips the scale towards that good positive rumor, as opposed to that sort of,
that's the art. That's hard.
that's why you get paid the big bucks. Okay.
I've certainly screwed up on it a lot. I'm better understanding people and what they can probably translate or what they're thinking in their head by what they're saying back. That comes with age, and experience. But you can always tell it to the wrong person or somebody who heard one piece of what you were saying and then spread the wrong rumor. Your question made me think of another thing too, which is I like the rumor managing expectations trick, if you will, if that's not the right word, tactic. When you're trying to get bad news. So, and often job architecture is a really good example of that. Sometimes people's titles change not in a great way, right? They don't have what they wanted before. And so sort of saying, hey, all of these directors are going to become senior managers, and getting that rumor out there helps with the whole not doing it at one time where you get this shock and awe, but people sort of feeling it. If you have a good enough HR team and business partners, those people go back to HR and say, hey, I heard this rumor. Is it true? And then I train my HR folks to say, yes, it is true.
Sure.
Here's what's happening. The other thing about rumors is you don't have everything in place, right? You're doing them because you're changing, but you don't have the end result yet. So you're like, it still is a crapshoot on what's going to happen. Maybe the thing doesn't happen. So you've initiated all these rumors and then nothing happens. That's bad too, right? Because people are like, I've heard a rumor, this is going to happen. Nothing's happening.
I can't help but to think that your creative background, your writing, your ability to be persuasive and
tell stories,
that's got to come in handy for all of us. Yeah.
As long as you're real, right? As long as I was really good at telling stories in my earlier, but they were always a little hyperbolic, shall we say? We'll say hyperbolic, but they were big and fussy. If you're being very honest with people, they can tell. And if you tell a story and sort of, people will get that and they'll be like, hey, it's helped me.
Yeah.
I mean, the bottom line is it's helped me.
And I love the whole idea. I mean, you're
I
very intentional about this. And we talk about intention all the time, in the podcast here, but I think that's
it's important.
right.
Yeah, I think if you're, and I like to wing it like anyone else, but this is one of those things that like you should be pretty intentional with who you're choosing to tell to, making sure that they aren't too political and they can use it against
Sure.
you, right? I mean, it can backfire in personal ways that it is horrendous. People hear what they want to hear, right? And when you're doing stuff like this, where you're not having a big presentation or a slide deck and you're like, this is how our change is happening, but you're spreading a rumor, you're talking about a story. Anyone can interpret that and spread it in a very, the telephone game,
Yeah.
right? In a very different
Right.
way.
How do you how do you
So all that is,
how do you keep a hold of that and make sure that whatever messaging you're trying to get sort of socialized or permeated throughout an organization doesn't get corrupted to the point? I mean, I get that you want some massaging of the message so that it's real, that it's unique, that it's in that person's own voice. But how do you make sure that it doesn't get totally corrupted so it's not the true intent of what you were trying to get across?
for me, it's picking the people who will give you that feedback loop. So they'll come back and say, hey, I said this and I heard this. And you're like, oh, maybe you misinterpreted it. I actually didn't say that. I said this. So you can course correct.
Sure.
This only work if you've been at a company long enough to develop relationships where you can get the rumor through other, like you've sent somebody on a rumor,
comes back to you.
mission. And it comes back to you, and it's not as twisted as you thought, so that people trust you. And they're like, "Hey, we're hearing this." It's like, and I always say, "Yeah, I planted that." It's like I want that to proliferate, so that's good. What did you hear? And if you don't have people in your office or you have those relationships with, I wouldn't recommend
Sure.
this, right?
Sure.
Because if you send something out there and you don't have control over what is happening, it could be a cluster of epic
Makes
proportions
sense.
when all is said and done.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what the telephone game could be. Oh, by the way, we're all getting fired, right? That wasn't the rumor.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's an art.
This is next level HR. This is not your basic
By HR. Yeah.
No, this is like you say, Jenny, this is something that you really need to understand, not just the corporate culture, but individuals and the way that specific individuals will hear a message, understand the positive intent behind it, how you think they might socialize that throughout the organization, trusting them to bring
Where they will
where
socialize it.
and what they're most likely to say and what they're likely to hear and then bring back to you. So there's all sorts of hearing and filtering and all of that. And how far do you think something will travel before it gets out of hand? And like you said, there has to be something about you being in an organization where you have enough of the pulse to understand that this approach can work and that you trust the people that are working with you to manage this way. That takes a lot of time and sensitivity to the organization, which is great that you're able to pick up on. And it takes a lot of guts to do that too. I think a lot of HR leaders would probably say it's too risky. Everything could backfire.
And they're right, often. And I will tell you, almost without fail, every time that I've done that, there's somebody that shared something with her who's spread a rumor who it was the wrong choice.
Sure.
Right. But in that, right, maybe it was a littler project, maybe it was a littler rumor. I learned a lot about that person. And I know, oh, yeah. So there's a lot of testing, and you have to have you have to be risk averse, right? You have to be somewhat ballsy to go out there and be like, I'm going to see if I can get these people to spread my message, right?
To do your bidding.
You have to garner trust with them. They have to trust you that you're not spewing a bunch of stuff, because there are people who do this that it is really obvious what they're doing. And they're like, oh, you're sending me on a mission to be
you want me to be the fall guy.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. I don't, that is
No,
not
this is not that. You're talking about something
you
that's very, very different. That's very, very different. which
So
is great.
yeah, it's a
And I love the
yeah,
feedback loop that you've built in, this idea of intentionally gathering, picking people who will give you feedback, having your ear to the ground for feedback. And then, like you said, there are these little mini projects, micro conversations where you're always learning, and it may
yeah.
not go so well with one person, but the next time you do it, to be aware of that. So you're sort of building this playbook essentially as you go and refining the methodology as you go, and just being open to that and not saying, I know how it's going to be. This is the way it shall go. That's so cool.
It has some positive effects that aren't just about the change
Yeah.
management, which is you're garnering trust with people,
Right.
right? They are then they're gonna go to you for other
Sure.
things, right?
Right.
The best feeling I've ever had is when you get the rare thing of somebody coming back and giving you that feedback loop without you asking, without like setting up a one-on-one or like, hey, did you hear it? They come back and they stop by your office. They're like, hey, just want to let you know that I don't think this is going to go over too well with the data scientist guys. They're not going to like this. That stuff is gold.
Yeah.
That is culture surveys in real
Yeah.
life that you cannot. This is where you get back to the old AI word that we're using every 5 seconds on every, in every conversation. But you can't. That's the stuff you can't do with AI. You
Right.
can't get that.
Right.
So
And I thought we were going to actually get through an episode without having the term AI.
I know. I
Or
that was
or
my
an
goal, but
acronym.
I was like, shit.
Well,
this
we
kinda-
got a fair
Oh,
ways
sorry.
into it, though.
Yeah.
I love
And,
that.
and
I
our
also
and
swear
our
like a
first
sailor, so
acronym
I-
of the day goes to Jenny. Huh? So,
Ding, 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 ding. Woo!
all right.
the VUCA acronym threw me because it's like that doesn't roll off the tongue.
It
really.
doesn't.
Is it VACA? VUCA?
VUCA?
Yeah.
VUCA.
Yeah. That's Dr. Casey. I was like, it sounded sci-fi like. I was just like VUCA. Like
Yeah.
But he had a lot of really good stuff to say that sort of dovetails into this
Sure.
too, which is that whole idea of psychological safety, right?
You must have to have a
It was
lot of
really
that.
fascinating.
Yeah.
That
And
trust, the
he's
psychological safety, and just the willingness to say something and have it land well or poorly, but be okay either direction, and get the
right.
feedback to refine. And
So one of those clips.
I tried this.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to say I tried this in a company that didn't have that. And what ended up happening was people were like, oh, well, I can trust HR now. They're telling me what's happening. Other stuff was happening that they weren't getting information about. And so when that happened, and I wasn't telling them that stuff too, I was only being transparent about these things, that also backfired.
Mm-hmm.
So this is sort of gets meta in how it, yeah.
Yep.
wow, okay, so
Yeah.
your rumors are carefully crafted, but may not be everything about everything. They're just specific. Yeah. What do you?
Correct. Then you have to look out for your peers who aren't rumor fans. And they're like, what are you doing? Why are you telling people this? That's a junior, whatever. They shouldn't know
Right.
this. And I try to bring them along for the ride. This is why I do
Right.
this. Like this conversation we're having now. And some people are like, no.
Which is so
that's
interesting
not.
because you're like unofficially changing the org structure when you do that type of thing,
Yeah.
right?
Or the way influence flows. You're creating
Right.
these pockets of influence.
It's subversive influence.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're exactly right.
So I like this
Yeah.
term.
Without submarining everything
Right.
else. Yeah. Which is
We've created rumor averse as a new term here for people.
Hey, look at
I
that.
like it.
And
Coin-
what do you call your rumor mongers? The people that you select to be sort of your
And this is so
change
funny. So I was like, I
champions?
should
What
have
do
a
you-
name for these people.
What do you call those folks?
Rumor agent.
Rumor agents?
Sounds like secret
Okay.
agents.
There
Yeah.
you go.
I don't really have a name
Change
for it.
champion,
I hate the term
rumor
rumor. It
agents.
just conjures gossip, but I don't know if there's another rumor agents. RAs, right?
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
We need
sure
an
not to
acronym
it.
for
We gotta
it,
have an
so,
acronym for that.
yeah.
Well, Jenny, you said you like to wing it, and you came on the right show for that.
And you won it.
That-
This is great.
great,
It looked great. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, can you give us a little bit about how can people contact you, and just especially about
Yeah,
your
good old
consulting?
LI, right? LinkedIn is probably the best way. And yeah, I'm because I'm back doing sort of my own consulting right
Hey.
now. my networking has just gone through the roof, which is great. So the more networking, the better. I love this and kind of stoking up things again while I figure out what my next move is. But yeah, LinkedIn is probably the best way. It's Jenni Pozar on
Uh-huh.
there. Pretty easy to find me. Yeah.
Cool. And do you have a website or anything like that to share?
I don't have a
Oh,
website.
okay.
I'm
Just
old
right
school.
on.
In fact, I told somebody the other day, I got to go through my Rolodex. And they were like, what's a Rolodex? And I was like, oh no.
It's sitting on your desk right next to your rotary phone and your fax machine.
Correct.
That's right. That's
Correct.
right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's so
Well-
cool. That's so cool. Hey, can we do a quick lightning round, Jenni? Is that okay?
Ooh, I like
Yeah.
it. Wow.
Love it.
Prior episode, go.
This is very who's that industrial organizational psychologist that does those anyway, go ahead. I'll come up with it.
You'll
I'll
think of it.
it. Go
Google
ahead.
it while we're
Go
yeah.
ahead.
Favorite prior episode.
Guys, I can't remember his name, but it was actually the guy I was listening to last night that was also a podcast guy that was a friend of Cheryl. Pete Miller? Is that Peter Miller? Was that it?
It
the
was
one we
last
just
week's
did this
episode.
week. Last week's
Yeah.
episode. Mike
Yeah, just
Palmer.
yeah.
Mike Palmer.
Mike
Mike-
Palmer. Yeah.
Mike, yeah.
That one was great.
Palmer.
Yeah.
Gee,
You guys
or
had a
Mike,
really
he's probably
nice
like,
fun conversation.
totally Peter, yeah. Yeah, no, it was really interesting for you to be interviewing the guy that usually interviews.
There was
And talking about thought leadership out there, which was for me really interesting because I was like, yeah, but I would love to do more of this, right? This is I love doing this.
Uh-huh.
So that was that, and Elizabeth. I mean, I got to shout out
Of
to
course,
Elizabeth,
yeah.
right? So her book and a Constantine, for those who don't know, was a great episode, and that's how I got hooked up to you guys. So
Yeah.
I,
And we are
I've
grateful
listened
for
to that episode a couple of times. She has a really she's a great human being, and she has a really good sense of a niche skill and
Sure.
need out there that people haven't hooked
Yeah.
on to. So if you haven't read her book,
For
Yeah,
sure.
that was cool.
good one.
That was great. Next question. Who's your favorite
Yeah.
pet shop character from Hermie, the hermit crab, the HR hermit crab?
I mean, this is going to sound so lame, but I actually had a homie
Oh, you had a Hermie.
growing up.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
all right.
I had a
Tell
hermit
us.
crab.
Tell
So
us.
yeah. I wouldn't now because I've read too much about keeping hermit crabs in captivity. But I lived in Oregon, so we would go to a town called Yahats, which my dad lives in now, and there were tide pools, right? And so there were hermit crabs everywhere. And I brought one home named Hermie, and he was with me for a couple of years.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just
Okay. So
my
our
favorite.
first cop out answer for the day. No, I just can't.
Total
No, that's
cop-out.
great.
I kid.
Total cop-out.
Awesome.
Cool. Thank you, Elizabeth, for playing along. Fabulous
to
gifts
Jenni.
and prizes will come
Jenni.
your way.
Elizabeth works.
Yeah.
Now.
Oh my gosh, I was just thinking Elizabeth. Well, if we're talking about Peter Parker and Mike Palmer and
I mean, yeah, that poor guy. Yeah, you'll have to figure out how to maybe
I'm sorry. That's
maybe not
horrible.
to look
isn't
so
it?
dumb. But
Awesome.
I liked Dr. Casey too. He was great. He was super fun to listen to. Yeah, nothing like an IO psychologist to really get your brain going. So
Well,
You could.
if
What do you guys think about starting a consulting firm and calling it VUCA?
I think it would totally flop because nobody knows what that means, and it sounds gross. It just there's something gross about that.
There's something sticky and
like at
icky
some point you
about
were
it, yeah.
like, C, what does C stand for? I was like, oh gosh, yeah, but it's gotta, it was great. But yeah, acronyms are the bane of my existence, right?
course.
TLAs, 3-letter acronyms.
PLAs. This is great, Jenni, because in all seriousness, I think one of the things that Rich and Cheryl and I have been talking about for a long time, almost since day one, is how to get HR to really own a seat at the
Mhm.
table, at the
Right.
strategy
Yeah.
table, at the C-suite table. And
Yeah.
I personally have not seen that happen all that often. I know Rich and Cheryl have had maybe more positive experiences. So this seems like a really great way for HR to own being a corporate strategy partner as opposed to just benefits.
Yeah.
Hiring and firing.
Yeah.
I agree. I've had such a weird life because the jobs I had younger, they were always bigger, huge tech corporations where HR was the trusted advisor to the CEO, had a seat at the
Hmm.
table. I thought that's how it was everywhere. And in the last 10, 12 years, I've been brought to my knees because I'm like, oh, they just think we're filling out forms. And like, yeah, that's a weird awakening that I didn't realize. So it's really important we get back to the table. We have a lot to say and give, and we have some skills I don't think people understand.
Well, so much value.
Um,
So much value. Yeah. Cool. Well, we look forward to the book. Can't wait to see Rumors in Action or whatever you decide to call it.
keep saying that. Keep calling me and telling me that. Maybe I'll.
Well,
I
there
have
you
to
go. We're
contend
starting
with
our
her.
first positive rumor of the day.
There you go.
All right.
Jenny/Elizabeth is writing a book.
Jenny's writing a book. Best.
Yeah, it's something to do with rumors in the workplace.
Right on. Well, thanks, Jenny.
Thank you so
A
much.
million- Thanks a million for joining us today. Thank you all for joining
Thank
us for
you.
this podcast. And
Yeah. When you hear it, please like the episode. Even if you don't like me or Rich, please like it because of Jenny. And,
Oh, I never do that. I should go back and do that. Okay, I'll
and-
do that.
And other folks out there should like Jenny and connect with her on LinkedIn because she's fabulous.
absolutely.
Thanks, guys. This has been a great time.
Well, folks, until we see you again, don't forget, make change your friends. Thanks for listening to Harmonious Workplaces. You can find Harmonious Workplaces on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and other streaming platforms. We'd love any feedback on whatever channel you find us on. Please rate, like, and share our podcast with your network. And remember to add Harmonious Workplaces to your list of favorites to get notified about each new episode.